Good morning, YouTube. This is your buddy Chapadon coming at you again with a quick tips video. This is more of the box checkers type stuff. If you follow me on Twitter or follow me in DFS Army, you can find the box checkers every Friday inside dfsarmy.com, where I am a coach and contributor. So follow the link in the description, click like, click subscribe, follow me at Chapadong out on Twitter, and get all the content that I release. Contemplate becoming a VIP inside DFS Army, where coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, is what earns you a 20% off discount for the life of your membership. So without any more bantering, let's dive into box checkers. If you're not familiar with box checkers, it is simply a focal point of the chalkier players of the week and why they are good plays. How many of them, we look at certain parameters that lead to fantasy sports players making value, and from there we determine who's in the best situation of the best, and we start weeding through the crap, and this is how we start developing our player pool. If you looked earlier in the week, I've got a quick tips or a quick picks video out that shows you my player pool, who I like and kind of why, and that will form the core of what I do this weekend. And of course, this will solidify it with box checkers once we dive into the research a little bit more. So what we're going to be focusing on typically are the green totals and numbers. Now, it didn't work out last night, but you can tell, generally speaking, Vegas is on to things, and they were expecting a high-scoring game. Of course, we didn't get it. So this week, we've got a couple of games that are offline. We've got some reds we don't want to target too much, and we've got some greens that we do want to target. So offenses like Kansas City, the LA Chargers, the Rams, New England on Monday night, if you're playing the Thursday through Monday slate, was a good one to target. The higher totals, like the Philly-Rams game, I don't know that one's going to play up as high as it looks like it is, because these are two pretty good defenses, but Vegas seems to think so. Philly is the only road team that we would really do much focusing on, but again, the Rams are a good defense. So let's see where box checkers takes us in this world that we like to focus on. We try to stick with home teams. We try to stick with the favored teams. That's why this graphic on a weekly basis is very, very important to getting your research directed or pointed in the right direction as we start. Now, if I click past this, we'll start with the quarterbacks. And these are your chalkier quarterback plays. Alex Smith, Phillip Rivers, Jimmy Garoppolo, Blaine Gabbert. A lot of them due to prices. Here's your prices over here. You can write these down. You can copy these. I'll put these in article form later on today, but I've got to run out and do a bunch of day job stuff. So I'm trying to get this info out to you guys in a timely manner so that you can at least process some of this. But what we're looking for is who checks the boxes. What quarterbacks are at home? Home quarterbacks tend to bring value more than road quarterbacks. Favored quarterbacks tend to bring value more than underdogs. You would think underdogs with garbage time, but that really isn't the case with the quarterback. We want an implied total over 24, preferably over 26. We want efficiency ratings, because quarterbacks that are efficient within their passing game, that is a more important stat than volume. Yes, it helps if Drew Bledsoe's throwing 80 attempts per game, but if he's not very efficient and he's not doing a lot with it, it's not doing a lot of good for you. I would almost rather a quarterback throw 35 times a game that's highly efficient than one throwing 50 times a game that is not efficient, if that makes sense. So QBR is quarterback rating. It's an efficiency metric, maybe not the best one in the world, but it's pretty good for what we look at this week. This year, it's actually been on target. Production premium is another one that you can find. It's just another efficiency metric. And this AFPA, if you follow Chris Raybon, this is his DVP metric. It's basically adjusted for fantasy points allowed, adjusted for the schedule. It's a really, really good metric, and I can see the DFS industry shifting this way. So what I did was, if these guys are in the top 10, or I guess in a top 10 matchup, I checked that box for you, and then we'll consider price. But when you're looking at the two quarterbacks, overwhelmingly you're looking at Alex Smith, Phillip Rivers, and Jared Goff this week. Wentz gets hurt because he's not favored and he's on the road. Yeah, he's scheduled to score and he's very efficient, and in terms of QBR and production premium, he's up there at the top of the league with guys this year. But honestly, He's not in a very good spot this week, not as good as others. So he'd be more of a GPP type of pick. Your chalk quarterback is going to be Alex Smith or Phillip Rivers. When you look on Fanduel and Draftkings, their prices are very, very similar. If I had to pick one, count the boxes. Alex Smith is not supposed to score as many points, but he's got the better defensive matchup, and he's got a higher production premium than Phillip Rivers. I'd probably lean Alex Smith based on last week and that he threw for 4 touchdowns last week. I know Phillip's been hot. I know that offense has been hot. I'm not going to argue with you if you choose Phillip over Alex Smith in this spot. Jared Goff is the other one, which really surprised me. Being that Philly's a good defense, I didn't expect him to check these boxes, but of course he's at home. He's favored. They're implied to score over 26 points, and his QBR and his production premium have shot through the roof over the last, say, 5-6 weeks, so now he's one of the top-ranked quarterbacks. He's better than Derek Carr, better than Jameis Winston, better than Deshaun Kite. Yeah, you can take flyers on all these guys, but these 3, Smith, Rivers, and Goff, are your cash quarterbacks this week. Period. End of story. Don't get cute. Running backs. Oh, boy. This is a week for value. Look at the top, some of these guys that are checking all of these boxes. You've got low-priced quarterbacks that are scheduled to be highly owned, which in cash games we don't mind. In tournaments, we might want to get away from that a little bit. But in cash games, we don't mind the higher ownership. It doesn't bother us. So Gio Bernard has, 4 boxes. That's okay. Lamar Miller is just dinging all the lights. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All 6 boxes. Clean sweep for Lamar Miller. Home, favored, getting a lot of touches, getting the red zone work, getting third down work. He's not got a lot of competition for touches right now, which is what makes him very attractive. And he's got a great matchup against a defense that doesn't defend the run very well. Bang. $6,600 as opposed to $9,000. This is your cash lock right here. I can't believe I'm saying this based on the first 4 weeks of the season, but Lamar Miller in Week 14 is your cash lock. LaShawn McCoy checked a lot of boxes. Home, favored, a lot of touches, not a lot of competition in the backfield. Gets vultured on occasion, but not too bad. Got a good matchup, $9,000. Probably a little pricey for what his efficiency metric has been, but he's in there if you want to consider him as some sort of a pivot off of maybe a Le'Veon Bell if you're using that slate, or maybe, if you had, too late now, but if you had Alvin Kamara, he would have been a pivot off of Alvin Kamara. Melvin Gordon checks a few boxes. He gets 2 freebies, being home and being favored. That doesn't mean much to Melvin right now, but he's still getting touches when he's not game flowed out of the game. He gets the red zone work. He's lost his third down work. He doesn't have necessarily a good matchup as far as a team that defends the run, but he's at home and he's favored, and this is a spot where you look to these guys. So he's playable. I don't know, more of a GPP play based on the points he's been scoring or not scoring lately. Todd Gurley checks 5 boxes. Home, favored, 18-plus touches, red zone work, third down work. The only thing is Philly defends the run fairly well. So you use that as you will with Todd Gurley. Kareem Hunt is in another pretty solid spot, but nobody's trusting him. This one is not a bad GPP pick either. We know what he can do if he just gets the opportunities. So I had to take the 18-plus touches off of him because he's only getting 13, 14. So it is what it is. Jamal Williams is on the road. Otherwise, he'd be checking a ton of boxes still. This is a sneaky pick this week. 6,600. Good pivot off of Lamar Miller. Leonard Fournette hasn't been great lately, but he's checking boxes still. Why? These are volume backs. These are getting a lot of touches. When they're home and they're favored, they get a lot of touches. Game flow favors them. The script favors them. When they're factored into the red zone, they get to punch the ball in and get some free points when their team gets down there. So, again, touchdowns are not all that predictable, but bringing value at home, bringing value when you're favored, bringing value when you get 20 touches or so, and red zone work, that is predictable. These guys are all in predictable spots. Some of them are going to have very good games. Alfred Morris, not so much. Peyton Barber, 4 boxes for cheap, $5,500, and you got yourself a guy who's probably going to get all the touches, all the red zone, and all of the third down love in Tampa Bay this week, and they're home. They're just not favored. So they may get games scripted out if it turns into some kind of a blowout, but being that they're at home, the chances of that are a little less likely. Peyton Barber's in a really, really good spot. That'll wrap up the running backs. Go to receivers. It's a hard position to predict. And this is why when the unpredictability goes through the roof, I tend to pay down. I don't like paying up for an unpredictable position. Well, when I'm looking at these, who's checking all of the boxes for us? Well, it looks like Crabtree's checking a ton of them. It looks like, who else? That's really about it. What's he got? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all we get this week. There are no 6 guys, 6 checkers going all the way across the board. DeAndre Hopkins in a pretty good spot. Josh Gordon not safe yet. Keenan Allen, good spot. But they're only checking 3 boxes. Now, these are some fluky boxes, and these road dog, under 18 implied points or over 27 implied points, these little areas are capitalizing on pricing discrepancies on the site. The site tends to not adjust the prices on these guys quite correctly. You want to know about that 18 points. Under 18 points hits that box hard because generally speaking, these guys are getting a lot of garbage time. And garbage time affects the wide receiver much more than it affects the quarterback in a positive way. Whereas the quarterback has to throw 25 yards for 1 point and then get touchdowns, which generally prevent defenses designed not to let you into the end zone. A receiver, on the other hand, gets the full or the half point for the reception and then 1 point for every 10 yards. So that, say, 30-yard catch for a receiver is 4 points on DraftKings, 3.5 on Fanduel. It's only 1.25 for you on Fanduel for your quarterback. So really and truly, you should be focused on garbage time more on the wide receivers, not so much on the quarterbacks when you're targeting these guys. That's why this under 18 category can be kind of sneaky. When a guy shows up in there like an Antonio Brown, his price is always up, but watch his price dip a little bit when he's not scheduled to score a lot of points or when he's a road dog. If you get both these, a road dog and an under 18, that's pretty sexy. Over 27 also, because these teams just usually go bonkers and the receivers are doing a lot of the damage, the quarterbacks and receivers, when you go over 27. Percentage of workload is just target share. What percentage of targets goes to that guy? Of course, we want him in the red zone, and we want him getting 8+ targets a game. So these are the core, and these are the little price sweeteners, if you will. That's why when you see a guy come into here who's got good core numbers, the only thing that Crabtree doesn't have is a little bit of workload, but we know he's the number one in there without Amari Cooper being dinged up. So then you put in 2 of these little pluses and, of course, the DVP or AFPA type numbers, and you've got yourself a winner. Crabtree's in a great spot this week. Hopkins, like I said, good spot. Keenan Allen, good spot. A.J. Green, good spot. Larry Fitzgerald, good spot. Go back and look at his game logs. Sneaky guy right now. Dropping down here a little bit more, Thielen and Evans, good spots. Don't trust Evans, and I know Thielen has a pretty bad matchup. So that's roughly your wide receivers. Let's go to tight ends. There's only a few of them that are going to be chalky this week, and if you're paying all the way down, you're looking at Steven Anderson or Ricky Seals-Jones. Ricky Seals-Jones is in the best spot. He's got himself the only good matchup among the chalkier tight ends. They're at home. They're not favored. They are at home. They're not scheduled to score a lot of points. You do want to see that with your tight ends, because that's a lot of times when they get down onto the 2 and they dump it into the tight end. You want to see red zone work, and you want to see 8+ targets. Seals-Jones doesn't have that, but again, he's dirt cheap. If you want to pay up for guys, Zach Ertz is not in the best spot, not home, not favored. That lowers his chances of bringing value. Plus, if you look at the last couple of weeks, he's been struggling just a little bit with Carson Wentz. Travis Kelce's your smash tight end this week. Checks most of the boxes, just doesn't have a great matchup. He's got a solid matchup, just not a great matchup. Defenses. There are a lot of defenses that are in play. These are the ones most people should be using. I'm only looking at Jacksonville and the Jets and a little bit of the Chargers, to be honest with you, and you can tell why. They're favored. They're favored by more than 6 points. The Chargers are. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Jets are not. That's a little bit of a ding. Those big spreads generally mean we're grinding the clock out late, and that other offense is playing catch up and throwing the ball right into us. And if you can see them favored by 6 points or more, Jacksonville is second in the league in interceptions, and they're first in the league in fumbles forced and fumbles recovered. So that's a good spot for them. They don't have it this week, but they are a solid defense week in and week out. You look at implied opponent totals. You want under 18. Cincinnati's in the best spot, no doubt. It's whether or not that defense can capitalize on it. I'm still predicting Jacksonville and New York. If I'm going to pay down, I'm going to take New York, because that Denver offense is just turnover prone from hell. But you can't go wrong with these others. If you really need to save the money, this is where I'd go. But you know what? If you need to save money, Box Checkers points out the Cincinnati Bengals. You might give them a look in some tournaments. Moving on to kickers, generally speaking, we look for home favored, implied to score a ton of points. Over 24 is the threshold. We want to see, ideally, a defense that gives up a lot of points to kickers, but then within that category, we're looking for the cheapest kicker we can find, and we run with it. Travis Coons is going to be chalk this week. He didn't get a lot of attempts last week. We don't have a lot of information on him. Personally, I'm a Zerline guy. But Butker's okay. If you can look at the wind forecast out there in Kansas City and make sure that it's not too windy for a bunch of crosswinds and make kicking a little bit tougher, Butker's in a phenomenal spot. So really and truly, that kind of wraps up what we're looking at this week in box checkers. These are your core plays. These are the guys that you're looking at most often. These are the guys that should make up the foundation of your DFS lineups this week. Again, if this type of coaching is something that hits you between the eyes, I want you to check, like, and click the subscribe button to the channel. Make sure that you get the content as soon as it's released. Check into dfsarmy.com, where I'm a coach and contributor and go into a lot more detail on a daily basis than I can out here in the public. Use coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, for that 20% discount grandfathered in over the life of your membership. Come in, check us out, give us a shot. I should show you some screenshots of some of the winners. We had another guy crush another live final in NBA the other day, and he's headed there with a couple of $1,000 in his pocket easily with a chance to win a lot more. So it happens every day inside DFS Army. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.